What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is AkeemHaynes. I'm a two-time Olympic bronze medalist, author, motivational speaker, and sports commentator. On my channel, we talk boxing, MMA, track and field, and of course, motivation and encouraging content. If this is something that you enjoy, then I hope that you subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get into the video. Robeisy Ramirez versus Jose Romero. What do we think of this fight? Let's get into it. This is a very good matchup for Ramirez because Romero is a tough quality fighter who has never been stopped before. And he's been in there with tough opposition such as Michel Rivera and Isaac Cruz. So even though this is a last minute opponent for Ramirez, it's a dangerous one if he overlooks him, which I don't think he will. But let's get into it. Let's break it down a little bit more. Let's talk about Robeisy Ramirez. Robeisy Ramirez is coming into this one with a record of 10 wins, 1 loss, 6 wins coming by way of knockout. He's been on a tear since his first defeat. Ramirez has all the makings to be a champion, in my opinion, right? The Cuban Ramirez has so much talent. If you've been following his career, then you know how he was able to do at the amateur level. 2 Olympic gold medals and the success that he's had there, right? He came into the professional level and lost his first fight against Adnan Gonzalez. And then he came back a few fights later and fought him again and avenged his loss. And that win, he won by unanimous decision. But with each fight, as a professional fight, man, Ramirez has gotten better and he's gotten better and he's gotten more confident with each fight. Now, he's built up a case of where if he wins this weekend and wins another fight against a top contender, he might find himself in the title matchup contention. I think he's there. He just has to do a little bit more and win convincingly and set a few more statements to be able to get that title shot. Now, I'm used to kind of seeing Robeisy Ramirez fight from the outside, right? Using the jab to create the distance and the space where he could control the pace of the fight, or he could slow down the pace of the fight by being more of the counter puncher than the aggressive puncher, outclassing his opponents with his boxing IQ and his mind and the strategy that him and his team put together. But in his last 2 fights, he's been mixing that boxing skill and that IQ, but also sitting down on his punches a lot more. And it's clearly showing. He's been able to generate more power in his head shots and his power punches and his body shots. And it's dangerous because it makes him even that much more versatile of a fighter. His jab is solid, his uppercuts are quick and they're hard. His hooks are lethal when it lands, and his body work is on point. He's got a lot of tools to work with in the toolbox, and he is a very accurate and precise puncher. But let's go back a little bit. Going back to his fight against Eric Donovan, right? I saw more of that pressure fighter, right? More of that power, more of that aggression. And he didn't force the knockout. He just took his time and found Donovan's rhythm and his pace and his cadence. And from there, I mean, he had him fighting off the back foot all night, right? Landing, punishing shots to the body, to the head. And eventually the shots just was too much for Donovan. And that left hand body shot just took him out, right? And it was the same thing with Abraham Nova. Nova let some of his hooks off Ramirez early and he dodged it and he came back smiling. And anytime you have a fighter who's coming back smiling every time you're throwing punches, either it's 2 things. Either he's playing possum and it hurt him, or he doesn't believe that you have the power to knock him out. And I felt like it was that against Abraham Nova that Ramirez was smiling about, because he felt like he couldn't hurt him. And that's when it got a lot more dangerous, because that's when he got a lot more confident. That was probably the most confident and composed that I've ever seen him. And he controlled that fight and fought smartly. And he dictated the tempo of that fight because he had Nova backing up again, fighting off of the back foot as he did with Donovan. Right. And when you're fighting off of the back foot, you're not sitting down on your punches as much. Right. You're leaving yourself open to getting hit because you're trying to jab and back up. You're trying to hook and you're backing up, and it leaves your chin open. And Nova's chin was up. And in the 5th round, we saw Robeisy Ramirez take advantage of him fighting off the back foot when he turned on the pressure, let his hands go, and we saw the knockout, and we saw how that fight unfolded. So Ramirez has really impressed me in the recent 2 fights. He can outbox you. Absolutely. He can land punishing shots that can drop you, or he can bully you, right? He's found a way to be a triple threat. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this weekend and what he wants to do. I know he wants to be more of a boxer that gets more knockouts, and he absolutely can with as much skills and tools that he has and the amount of power that he's able to generate in these recent fights. He absolutely can do that. But he's not the Robeisy Ramirez that can do those things if he is forcing the fight. But when he lets it come to him, there's a good chance that we might see a knockout this weekend. But let's talk about his opponent, Jose Romero. 26 wins, 2 losses, 9 wins coming by way of knockout. The Argentinian fighter is on a 2-fight win streak. 1 win was a split decision, and the other came by way of knockout. He's a tough fighter. He's got a lot of heart, and he's going to make you fight. He's not going to back down, right? He's not someone who is going to stop coming. He fights with something to prove. But I want to go back to his last 2 fights that he lost. Against Michel Rivera, in that fight, the speed of Rivera was something that caused him a lot of trouble, right? He couldn't keep up with the hand speed and the reflexes and the tempo and the speed of his punches. Romero was throwing good punches in bunches, but they weren't always connecting, right? And when his flurry punches were done, Rivera caught him with a punishing shot of his own, and he countered him, and he moved out of the way and reset everything all over again. So even though he had some good moments in that fight, right, and he fought tough all night, it just seemed like he was a step behind Rivera, as Rivera was just more skilled and he was more faster and he was the quicker and more accurate puncher in that fight. In that fight, he just got outboxed and outclassed in that fight. But against Isaac Cruz, right, in that fight, man, he was fighting off of the back foot all night because when you're fighting Pitbull Cruz, pressure is the one thing that he is always going to use to his advantage. He's always going to keep coming. And in that fight, you could see Romero was doing his best to weather the storm. He was always in constant moving. He was using the jab when he could. He was letting his hands go when he could, using his feet to help find openings and set up some of his shots, right? And he did have some good moments. He landed some clean, flush shots right on Isaac Cruz's chin. But it just wasn't enough. The pressure was too much. And I think the constant movement and pressure that Isaac Cruz was putting forth and the constant moving of Romero, it just tired him out a little bit, right? And he couldn't keep his hands up consistently and he let his hands drop. And that's when he would get caught with the shot. To me, he just got tired because I don't think he was ready or prepared to fight someone who is as well conditioned as an Isaac Cruz, but someone who just puts forward relentless pursuit and aggression every single round for 12 rounds, how long the fight is. So it was a close fight, but Isaac Cruz landed the bigger and the cleaner shots, and he was the more aggressive fighter all night in that one. So it's not that Romero fought bad in that fight. He just wasn't ready for the pressure, and the pressure tired his legs out and his hands dropped a little bit more, especially going into the later rounds, and Isaac Cruz was just too much for him. But he fought tough all night. Even though he lost both of those fights against the better opposition, against the better fighters, right? He is going to be there. He is going to make you fight tough. He is not going to back down. And he does do a lot of good things. I do like Romero. I think this is a tough test for Robeisy Ramirez, right? So in this one, I still have Robeisy Ramirez winning this fight. It would be a great statement and a massive statement win if Ramirez can stop Romero, right? And he could definitely do that. But I think Robeisy Ramirez wins this one by unanimous decision. I saw some of the shots that Romero took against Rivera and some of the shots that he took against Isaac Cruz and how cleanly some of those shots landed on his chin, and he still kept coming forward. A little bit wobbled, but he still came forward and never backed down. That man has some type of iron chin, right? But if Robeisy can get the stoppage, if he can get the win by knockout, it would be very, very impressive. I still think if Robeisy goes in and he completely dominates this fight, I think that will equally be as impressive. But I do have Robeisy Ramirez winning this fight by unanimous decision. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comments section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways that you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel and will be greatly appreciate it. Shout out to everybody that has donated on the Cash App. I really appreciate it. If you would like to follow me on social media, you can find my social media handles on screen as well. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this time, then do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.